How does that look? I'm not gonna do that dance move. We're gonna change it. Hmm, hmm. Hello,
Wonderful.
beautiful.
Hello. Right back at you. Noticed I needed a little extra dancing today.
Yeah,
How are
yeah.
you?
I'm good. Same though. I definitely had to take a second today and go outside and shake out the tension and the angst and all of that stuff. Working on taxes, So extra dancing is always good.
Right?
Yeah.
Should we do our official kickoff so we can get this show started?
Absolutely. Hi, ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur and author, the founder of Shalo Glow, an all natural handmade personal products company that helps people glow from head to toe. I am a champion for your self care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I am Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, Amazon bestselling author with my friends and co host, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade your self and community care.
Yes, together we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co founders of Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. How do we do this?
So much. I know I feel like I say that every week, but yes, how do we do it? How do we do it?
Right?
Especially with this dimension that we're talking about this week. Spiritual wellness is so important. So I'm excited about our conversation.
And also today, International Women's Day.
Yes, it
Whoop,
is.
whoop.
Whoop whoop.
We are live and recording on March the 8th. And, it's a special day. Like, I think every day women should be celebrated. But,
Right.
it's fun to have celebrations and designations and things like that. So when you think about International Women's Day, what do you think about?
Mm. Today earlier, you and I were talking about how grateful we are to do everything that we get to do, right? The past few conversations we've had about different projects and just the past few months have been amazing. And when you brought that up earlier, it immediately reminded me of my college graduation cap. And I was either going to put Black Lives Matter on it, which I did, right? I wanted them to see that with the honor stole, okay? Or if it wasn't that, it was going to be I am Malala, right? Because we know that internationally, again, women are in different positions. So that's what I'm thinking about today. Just again, being able to be in our purpose and speaking to women of all ages. I had the opportunity to go to Agnes Scott. We went to the
Hmm.
Overture, which is a senior, living residence, and I've been to back to the high school. So I'm literally talking to all these different generations, and those have been the things I've been thinking about.
I love that. Yeah. We're going to put a link to the show notes, but I want to let folks know because sometimes you're like, well, what is that day? What is
Hmm.
what's going on?
Right.
So, International Women's Day, folks want you to imagine a gender equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive, a world where difference is valued and celebrated, and together we can forge women's equality. It's a day to celebrate women's achievements, to raise awareness about discrimination, and to take action to drive gender parity to
Hmm.
where, the incomes are equal.
Right.
International Women's Day belongs to everyone, everywhere. Inclusion means all International Women's Day action is valid. Is that
Absolutely.
fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I think about it, when I think about the International Women's Day belongs to everybody, for me, that reminds me of our podcast and our book and community. And everybody's like, oh, what's the title of it? And I'm like, Women Connected in Wisdom. They're like, oh, so it's for women. I said, no, that's just who speaks. It can be for everybody, you know? So this idea that if it has women in it, it's automatically excluding other people, like women don't affect everybody's life. Like women aren't the reason that we're all here and places that we all draw strength from.
Right? I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact is, sometimes people are like, oh, you don't need Well, we still do need these days and these recognition when we're still not making equal wages and equal pay.
Right.
And we often talk about that on this show. And
Mhm.
we talk about especially women of color and black and
Right.
brown women make significantly less than white women and way less than white men. So,
Absolutely.
that's a part of this is uplifting those voices and us
Right.
having these conversations.
Yeah.
Because,
Like when we
oh, go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say? Because
I was just going to say, like, until all of us are equal, it impacts everybody.
yeah, it does. And I always think about Cecile and equity now, right? The difference between being treated equally and then um, being equitable, and how being equitable is actually the adjustment that based on what this person needs and the context of their situation, what they get might be different, right? And so when we talk about living situations, when I think about how much men pay, I go back to Oprah's story and how she was asking for money, more money, and her boss was like, "Well, do you have a wife and a family to take care of, you know?" So I'm understanding that the importance of men making so much is because they're the head of the household and they have these people to take care of, right? But now when we're in a society that's single for longer, but now the money is just for you, because I'm the type of woman, I'm not asking you to get my hair retwisted. I'm not asking you to get my nails done. And if I do what I like, that's like $150 every 2 weeks, right? And so now, like Laurel Ann Starks talks about, we have all these beauty taxes, right? And the beauty labor that we have to still put in because we're still required to be presentable. But the money that was supposed to be for the family or their children or the caretaking is now not given. And now all those expenses are on this person that makes less money. It makes things unrealistic, you know? And that's what I think about when I hear even women struggling with how they're treated when we talk about independence. It's not saying that anybody's being emasculated or you can't be amazing in your power. I'm just saying that I want to be able to have my nails look good and eat the same day. You know, that I don't want to have to come beg you or put it on your plate if it's something that's for me, but that I can be able to take care of it. And that there isn't a difference between what 1 hour is worth, right, on paper, and then what somebody else's hour is worth on paper, and those being defined by certain characteristics that have nothing to do with competency or work ethic.
For the job itself. Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a powerful topic. It's we talk about it every week because we are Women Connected Wisdom
Right.
podcast. So
Mhm.
it comes up every week. But
Yeah, it
it's
does.
interesting to have a day like that the whole world's talking about it, right? And it's
And it would
super fun,
how when did you realize that there was a Women's History Month? I was in high school when I found out. I was like, "What are you talking about?"
right?
I didn't know. When did you
I
find out
can't
about women's
remember.
history?
I
Okay.
don't hold it. I'm so much older than you. I don't hold those dates in my
I
head.
hear you. But it's a thing.
Yeah. One of the things I think about around this time of year is when I was invited to and had the privilege to speak at the United Nations at
Yeah.
the status of on the Commission of the Status of Women, because it always
Right.
happens around this time of day, around this time of year, not
Yeah.
maybe exactly this time of day. Who knows?
Right. Right. You would know, you had been there once. It
And
was cool.
what a powerful convening of women from all over
Yeah.
the world it is. And how to come together, to learn from each other, to share with each other, to share modalities. I was there sharing about some work that I had been doing with Interplay and Turkish refugees with Ruth Showalter and Jonan, and sharing out that work and
Right.
how we were building community and getting people connected after some pretty horrific situations, right?
Mm. Mhm.
And so being able to share that, like, together, and having people in your session that English was not their first language, they were from a different part of the world and wanted to hear what we were up to, and us to hear what they were up to, and just how we know this to be true. When we connect, when we collaborate, when we lift up each other's voices,
Right.
we it makes a difference.
Absolutely. I think it's like we were talking about last week, just a different way of doing things, a different energy that you bring with soft power and lifting each other up and giving each other enough time to share your truth and to share the rest of your story, without part of that getting cut off. I think not only women can use that, but if everybody incorporated it more, we would have more peaceful interactions. And that's something else I've been thinking about for Women's History Month. I know we're about to talk more about spiritual wellness, but where we are and the opportunity of what we have to do, I'm super excited about it. Like, we would not globally be sharing a few years ago that you as a white woman and as a black woman have a press. We would not have been sharing that around the time that we're talking about presses and things being destroyed or papers missing or whatever it is, right? And we also have the convenience of not having this huge piece of still iron equipment in the middle of our living spaces, right? We can do this with technology and online and with our international team, because we do have an international team from the United States and Canada and Egypt. So even though the whole picture isn't beautiful when you look at the big picture, right, or some of the paint strokes and the things you wouldn't choose to put it in there, but I'm really excited about where we're going and the opportunities that we get to take and all the ladies that we get to bring with us.
Right.
Yeah.
You saying that about we might not choose some of the paint strokes, right? That
Yeah.
have created this masterpiece that is
Right.
our life or our
Yeah.
world or
Yeah.
whatever. In interplay, we have a practice of looking for and affirming the good. Not to
It's
negate that
important.
there's bad out there or not to negate that there's not work to be done, but
Yeah.
looking for the beauty, like looking for, I mean, that's one of the things I like about International Women's Day of celebrating, like who
Yes.
are like calling the names of some of our mentors, of some
Yeah.
of the women who have impacted our life. Like when I ask you that, like
hmm
who are some women that
Yeah.
you are because, well, what's this phrase? I am because you are.
Right. So
Mm,
many. The first person I was thinking about was Linda Goodwin, because I usually bring her up as my entrepreneurial mentor, right? But when my mom passed away, I was like, didn't know what to do. She was like, don't make any more calls. Don't text anybody. Just stop for a second. I got you. And she called somebody from the church, and this person was able to put me in contact with the crematory. And that's how I got my mom cremated. I did not know what to do and didn't know who to call. And I was like, that's an example in my life of women connected in wisdom. And I knew that I was passionate about it. And I was thinking about that story. I would also say Stephanie Starks, my godmom, who is like a mother figure for me. And she was in that position, and it was a person I would call before I met my mom and after, right? Again, since my mom passed away. And I'm about to make a whole turkey. And I had some questions about the turkey and some beans I was making last week, and I called her. So I would say them two and a list of other people, Aunt Rhonda from growing up, that she was from church, different people that passed the baton, Mama T and Miss Brenda from Girls Inc. way back in like elementary school. Um, there was another woman, her last name started with a B, and I was thinking about her too. And I don't know if I told this story, Christine. Um, she stripped me down naked in front of everybody in the kitchen of Girls Inc., right? Because I needed deodorant, and it was like this age when you start going over, it's like, okay, you need to start wearing deodorant every year, right? And again, I grew up with my dad, so she's like, I'm gonna help you, right? We're gonna fix the situation. And I'm thinking about Shaylo Glow now, right? And the conversations I have about value and taking care of your body and hygiene. And for me, it feels like sometimes it was only me that needed that much help. But we know that a lot of people need help in that area, and just reaching back to those memories and really thinking about, this woman helped me when I didn't know I needed help. If I did, I didn't know what to do. Those are some of the women that come to mind when I think about it. What about you?
powerful.
Yeah,
Well, I got to shout out my mom,
of course.
Janet Nichols. She just is a rock star in my world, and taught me how to be just passionate and caring and connected and just all the things. And uh, my sister, Katie Nichols, want to give a shout out to them. And then there's so many, like you, like there's so many I'm going to forget somebody or not call the name. But, I think about Sheila K. Collins, who's been on the show, who is my co author and mentor and has been for, 30 years. And then I think about Glenda Taylor, one of my spiritual advisors and mentors and dear friends that I've been connected to for about 30 years. And I think about you.
Yes.
I think about you and our connection. And age doesn't matter when it comes to that. When you think about women who inspire you and
Yeah.
lift you up, and also encourage you to be your best, right?
Right.
And to rest when you need to rest. I think about everybody in our Manifesting Monday group. I am just so grateful when you think about teachers. Oh, I have some teachers that
Mm.
when I was growing up,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
that impacted. Coach Deal was one of
Yeah.
the women in my life that was like a second mom, and she was my coach for years, and my best friend's mom. And so
Yeah.
I think about, I am so lucky and so grateful. Thousands of women in my life, my neighbors currently, like, just, I mean, I think about women at the grocery store that I'm in relationship with. There's just, I think about all the connections and the gratitude.
Yeah.
And I also want to shout out the friendships that are no longer.
Right.
We've been having this conversation about sometimes friendships are for a moment, a season, or a lifetime.
Yeah.
And for those women that were in my life for a season or a
Absolutely.
moment, I want
Hmm.
to give grace and gratitude and a shout out to them.
And space to that.
Um,
Yeah.
right, right, and those that have passed on. I mean, you've mentioned a couple that have passed on and that
Right.
are no longer on this plane, but are definitely still influencing us, and that we're
Right.
doing things on behalf of them. And I
Right.
think about my grandmothers and their mothers, and all our ancestors. Like, we are, I am because they are,
Right.
and
And you can't get away from that, you know?
right.
And I think that the more that we realize that and tap into it, the better we take care of ourselves, the better we take care of the people around us. And that's one of my huge goals of Women Connected in Wisdom. I know that I personally had the story or in the lie in my head that, oh, I did not have a lot of female influence, right? Um, but I think that even those that know they have family, that know they have all these women and the teachers, if you really think about it, you'll realize even more stories that you forgot because women are doing things every single day, you know. But again, to know that you have the help and to know that you just showing up as you are will help the next person. I think that's the beautiful underlying thing that I runs through it for everybody for me.
Mm, I love that. And I think it is connected to what we're talking about today and the dimension of wellness that we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would love to give a definition and then keep going because I have shout outs. I need to shout out Dallas, my best friend and stuff. But
Yeah.
again, ladies, today we're talking about spiritual wellness. And spiritual wellness allows us to be in tune with our spiritual selves. This realm of wellness lets us find meaning in life events and define our individual purpose. It can be defined through various factors, including religious faith, values, ethics, and morals. Regardless of whether you believe in a particular religious faith, there is always something to be seen, always something to be learned about how you see yourself in the world.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it's a great topic to be talking about in conjunction with International Women's Day, about like
Hmm.
how we see ourselves in the world and how that
Yeah.
impacts our spiritual wellness, and those mentors, and how we're shaped, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because if I can be honest, I feel so. This is what I heard. I heard you saying, absolutely, Shannon, and also call out the joy, right? Call out the good things. And that's something I'm really intentional about. I think that for this Black History Month and Women's History Month, it might be the hardest year in a long time for the things that I'm seeing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that a lot of things are propaganda and it's marketing. Marketing is not real. I know all those things. But I also think about the way that these things psychologically affect the people that are seeing it. Right. And from the first day of Black History Month up until today, it's like crazy stuff that I'm seeing. I also knew that we would have that with a Black female vice president. Right. So I said,
Mm-hmm.
we're about to have 4 years of amazing opportunity for women and they're going to try a lot of stuff. And they have been trying.
Trying a lot of
they,
stuff, right?
they have been trying. But I'm excited again, like you said, to celebrate and to give light to all the things that women are doing well, all the things that we have the opportunity to continue to do. And when I think about spiritual wellness, for me, this is where it gives me peace because I know I can define myself. I don't have to worry about what other people say about me.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and part of my practice, part of my
Yeah.
spiritual practice is being able to look at both, right? The reality of what's in the world and
It's
look for the
important.
good and the beauty of the world, right?
Absolutely.
I used to say hold both the grief and the gratitude.
Mm,
And I've been taking a class recently with Cynthia Winton Henry,
mm,
who is over at Hidden Monastery. Perfect, you know, segue for spiritual wellness. And I can't
yeah.
wait till she's on the show. But, she talks about the semantics of holding it, that we want to be able to let it pass through. We want to
Right.
acknowledge it and let it pass through. We don't want to hold
Hmm.
it. We don't want to
Hmm.
hold it in our bodies or bring it into our bodies, because we know when we do that, often it can make us sick, right?
Right.
And looking at the grief and the gratitude
I
and
like that.
acknowledging that, because we all have a lot of it if
Yeah.
we're paying attention at all, right?
Yes.
Right. I think
Yeah.
that's the big thing, and yeah,
And
I
that's
go ahead.
and of course, and when I think about spiritual wellness, that's what I think about. Okay, life is going to happen, right? We know that people are going to pass away and things are going to be part of the years, but there's also good stuff, and don't allow the bad stuff to creep over like weeds and you never see the good stuff. Because again, in every day there's, I feel like something that's trying to distract me from the really good things that are still going on. And even though you have to be realistic and say, hey, this needs to be addressed, or I need to take a step here or put this down here, um, it's still beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. What have you been doing lately? What have you been your spiritual practices that are helping you stay grounded, and not just grounded but thrive?
Yeah. So for me, it's been taking time, right? I think about money and time. I'm working on thinking about them the same, right? So if you have a budget for your time, I have a budget for my money. And just like I like to pay myself first, it's really important to give that time to myself, right? I'm not all powerful. I, in that time, submit my authority to God, right? So, okay, give space in the day, try to pray over things that I'm worried about. That is how I let things go, right? Okay, I've said it. This is the situation. And I know that for me, it's helped me. Some of my peers say, oh, it's hard for me to let stuff go. And if you feel like you just let it go, it's kind of still there and you can still grab it, you know? So it's literally time for me to say, what's going on? How do I feel about it? I think about you. How do I feel in my body today, right? What do I need to work on? What do I need to process? And genuinely giving that over with the authority that I think I have so I don't get big headed and everything. And then, okay, what are we doing today? Then I look at the planner. What is the plan? What do I have control over? This is what I have authority over. Let's step into that with confidence. And again, like I've said, when I don't do that, you could tell the difference in the flow of the day. And something else that's been coming up recently is discernment, right? I prayed for that. Prayed to be able to read situations and people and know what's true and alignment and what I should do. And with that comes awareness of a lot of stuff that you can't just ignore, you know. And so with that separation and when I let things go, even in situations, it makes it so that, let's say if traffic is crazy or somebody jumps in front of me, I don't immediately respond to it. It gives me a little buffer so I can process it. And excuse me, I don't react to it. I can process it and then appropriately respond. And I think that has saved me being irrational or making quick decisions, rash decisions in a lot of situations. And that keeps me grounded, it keeps me peaceful, and it keeps me centered.
I love that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
What I'm
What
hearing
about
is practices, right?
yeah, yep, and the
Things that you
consistency.
repeat and you're consistent about. Yeah.
Yeah, and a habit, because you and I are gonna talk. You know, I'm gonna
Hmm.
call again, Miss Stephanie. I'm gonna
Hmm.
call my best friend. But did I run it past God? What did He think about it? You know, there, the Holy Spirit is really, I feel like, been guiding me. So
Hmm.
if I just ask you, a lot of times you'll find out instead of running around worried about it is not gonna help.
Right. Taking that moment to breathe. Right. One of my practices,
Yes.
and I don't know if it would fit under spiritual practice, but in some ways it kind of does. One of my practices is when I'm really busy. that's when I often, like, I am very intentional about going outside.
Yeah.
And, when it, like today, it was a sunny day. I only had a 10-minute break, but
Yeah.
I went out and I sat in the sunshine and just took some deep breaths and, connected and really connected with myself, connected with spirit,
Yeah.
just took a moment. And consciously didn't do anything for,
Right.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
And was being, and just totally recharged me. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of practices that I do, and sometimes I'm running too fast, and but I can always tell, like you
Mhm.
said, if I do it differently. um, and I've been noticing, as things change, as seasons change, as it's spring here in Georgia, y'all.
Yeah, it's
So
beautiful.
it's beautiful, 76 degrees. I was out
Mhm.
walking Monty the other day, though, and a little brief wind came up, and there
Yeah.
was this puff of a yellow cloud of pollen that came out. Literally, you could see it, right?
Yeah.
Floating in front, like, because that's where we're at right now
Yeah, it
here. It's
is.
the yellow rivers. And
Yes.
so I noticed, like, this week my body has been dragging, whether that's
Mhm.
from the allergies or from my schedule or from the allergy medicine. I'm not quite sure, but sometimes I have to give grace and have a little more sleep during those times.
Yeah.
And so some of my practices get shifted a little. So I think that's the other thing, is like having that grace for ourselves,
Right.
and knowing when we just need to ease up on some things, or if we truly need a reset. Like if we're way off the path and we need to be like, all right, hard. It's kind of like your computer, right? A hard
Mhm.
reboot. Like,
Yeah.
what am
Yeah.
I? Which I think we could talk about in any of the dimensions of wellness. But
Absolutely.
I think especially spiritual wellness, like if I find myself getting cranky, or my thoughts being a little more negative than usual,
Yeah.
I catch myself, like, because that's
Mhm.
not how I operate in my world. So it's like,
Absolutely.
all right, what's going on, right?
Right. And I think it's that, and that was one of my wisdom in actions on one of the shows, right? Was I think it was with Laura Madison, the the notice, not the judgment, right? Like, what is going on here? Instead of, oh, you should have had this done already. Taxes are due soon. Why did we get here? You know what I mean? And sometimes it'll be something simple. Like, I love the story of you ladies at Manifestation Mondays with the dentist appointment. How did you miss that dentist appointment? What happened? Why did you not end up on the phone call or whatever I was supposed to do that day? And it was because the last time I had surgery, and it minimized the fact that I had surgery. And so that might be something physical. It might not necessarily be spiritual, but it might also be spiritual, you know? So just taking the time to notice, I think, is really helped minimize the processing time and minimize the amount of stuff that I carry with me. It makes it easier to let it go.
Boy, that's a spiritual practice, letting go, right?
Gotta let it go. It'll be way too heavy. I want to be light. I
Right.
want to fly. Yes.
Cecile Armstrong, who's been a regular guest on our show and a friend and one of our authors, she and I were having a conversation recently, and she received very clearly that letting go can be easy. Often when we think about letting go, we think about being a struggle and a fight, and it's a big process, and we have to do a big ceremony, which sometimes we need to, right? Especially if
Yes.
it's something big like a divorce, or sometimes there needs to be more
Yes.
ceremony and more things around it. And then sometimes we can just consciously make the decision, I'm going to let that go, and have intent to release it.
Yeah.
Who, even as I say that, my shoulders drop.
Good.
It's like,
Good.
oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I know I'm going to mess up. I'm not perfect. You know, I think about stuff I've said on the show, stuff I've said at Manifestation Mondays, like, that was kind of naive, or maybe you didn't mean it that way, and have to ask for forgiveness. So I definitely am one of those people, like, I'm going to separate you from your actions, and we could talk about the actions, we could talk about boundaries. But I still try to remember there's a person behind there. And whether they
Right,
choose to change or not is fine. But how do I want to operate in that situation?
right. Me
Yeah.
too. Me too. But you think about going back to International Women's Day, right?
Yes. Okay.
If all of these women who have made incredible contributions to our world,
Mhm.
which I can name 10 off the top of my head, as I'm sure you
Yes.
can,
Yes.
if they would have waited until they were perfect, or until
Mm.
the situation was right, or
Yeah.
until they made sure they said it just the right way, right?
Yeah.
Um, You and I know from starting this podcast 2 years ago, like, you just do it sometimes, right? You have an idea or you have a thought or you have a, and you start and you don't actually know maybe the next step, but you
Yeah.
just keep taking incremental steps and going forward and building and doing. And we were in our Canva account earlier getting ready for something else. We're like, holy geez, there's a lot of work in here.
Yes. Files and files like the Matrix. Yes.
Right? Well, and then you
Yeah.
start to look back. You look back over your week. You look back over your month. You look back over your lifetime, right? And you look
Yeah.
back at your legacy. And hopefully, like, you have good thoughts and good feelings, and you were on purpose. Because I think that goes with spiritual wellness too, right?
Absolutely.
Figuring out your purpose.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's what I was thinking about when I was talking about the separation and why is this, right? I would be at jobs and say, something doesn't feel right, and I feel like it was the misalignment with where I was and my complete purpose, right? Could I still develop young ladies? Absolutely. Countless conversations, not only specific to the skills that they're learning there, but what else are you doing? Or you're a nursing student telling this girl about a planner, had a whole conversation. You need to have time management, Um, but sometimes it'll be that nudge. Sometimes it's time to move on to the next phase of your life. And those things aren't physical. It's not going to the dentist. It is, hey, you need to get more in line in this place. And it's something telling you that that's how you do it. And that's what I'm so excited about doing what we're doing right now, because I'm really out here on faith. If things, on the one hand, if you're the type of person that always goes to the worst case scenario, we only got a few more days over here. I might have to get a job somewhere else. I don't think that's going to happen though. All right, I have faith. We're writing volume 2. We've got book signings in South Carolina coming up. I'm speaking, doing all this stuff, and it's going to grow. And I believe that because I believe I'm in line with my purpose and what I'm supposed to be doing.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were doing an exercise today in Cynthia's ensoulment class, and it was about tell a story about a time that you had a yes moment, like that you knew you were in purpose, or you felt like you were in purpose, or maybe not even using that language. That was just your whole body was a yes to the experience of what was happening. And I immediately thought about last year and volume 1 coming out, and
Mm,
hitting Amazon bestseller in less than 4 hours. And
mm.
then a month later, having our international conference, virtual
Yes.
conference, having
Hmm.
120 people sign up for, like, I was just like, and then there was this part of me, to be honest, there was a part of me that was like, yes. And then there was a part of me like, boy, that was a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
just because you're in your purpose doesn't mean there's not a lot of work. There's not a lot
It's
of
not. It's
details. There's
not
not a lot
weight
of
to what's
things,
going on. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Um, and so grateful to do it in collaboration and to
Yes.
not be holding that all by myself. That,
So grateful.
that we have a team, we have a group, we have each other,
Yeah.
we have people we can call on the hard days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that is one of the things to celebrate about Women Connecting Wisdom, but about, like, International Women's Day. Like, let's celebrate each other. Let's give shout outs. Let's talk about the work. Let's talk about who we admire and who we're
Yeah.
grateful for.
Yeah. And when I think about it, if I think about friends and stuff now, definitely Deanna, again, best friend over 20 years. We keep saying 20. We've been saying that since it was 20. That was like 2 years ago. So it's been a while, and being able to say that, I know we talk about age all the time. So I love being able to be like, yeah, we've been friends for 20 years. People look at us like, how old are you guys? you know? And Joe. Joe was one of the first guests on the show. She's one of our authors. We just went to her play, and Joe has changed my life. Because of her
Mm.
event, I met my partner. Because of Joe, I met you, another partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, I also met my other business partner. Like, so
Right?
just the connection and sharing of like common energy and the way that we want to be as people and the way that we want to see people treated.
Right? Let's give a shout out to Joe and Austin's play
Yes.
Wednesday, not Friday. That was a fun, full event.
Yes. Yes, it was.
And I think they're doing it again. So
Yeah. She said
we
that
will
soon.
we will make sure that our listeners get info about that play, because it was Joe Vantrius and her husband Austin wrote that play, and
Yes.
it was a very embodied experience. That was fun. Like
It was
it
fun.
was really fun. I was grateful to get to hang out with our people and have a full sold out. I mean,
Packed.
yeah, packed.
Packed,
It
people
was
standing on the
standing room.
side,
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
I was telling Pharaoh, I don't think that I've seen anybody use in person and on screen visuals at the same time as much as Joe, right? She did that at Eat Love Pray. She did that at the play. Austin and her did that at the play. And Austin and she, however you say it, right? And I think that's beautiful because you keep people engaged in different ways. And I think that's unique to their creative style. And as they keep making more stuff, we'll see more stuff that they do that's unique to them.
She's a very mixed media artist.
Yeah, it
Such a
was good that one.
talented human being. Like, yeah. We're going to be saying one day, we know Dr. Joe Vesey back when.
Right. Yep. I managed her music release way back in the day, her first one. Yes.
I love that, right? Um, and I think about all the women who don't get accolades or don't get a chance to get their dreams realized because of
Yes.
illness or caregiving or life circumstances or where they were born.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I think about that often. I mean, I think
Right.
about the women that are currently going through war because, as we know, women and children are the most impacted by war.
Mm. Mhm.
And so, I think about over in Ukraine right
Right.
now. And
Right.
and before that, the refugees in Syria. And it's like, whew, it can get heavy quick, right?
Right. Right. And it makes sense. I was again just recently at the high schoolers, so I'm talking to some of the high schoolers, I'm talking to the teachers, what do the students need? And um, a big thing is making sure that they understand why stuff is important. They understand why their voice is important, right? And I get you feel like you're one voice. What is one voice going to do? And that's what I thought when I was there, right? And that's what I wrote. And I shared with you ladies as volume one went to Amazon bestseller that in those questionnaires that we would do at the beginning of the semester, do you feel like you can make a difference? I said, yes, I do, right? But I can make a bigger difference with more people. And that's why I love that we do Women Connected in Wisdom now, because I feel like I've been talking about you ladies for so long. Like, this is what I was talking about. But still, each voice matters, right? And so when you talk about women doing the unseen work, knowing that the household labor, the unpaid labor is the biggest category, billions of dollars for decades, centuries, that is what I'm most excited about. Telling the ladies you matter, you're amazing. We definitely can't do it without you. Please give yourself the credit for the rest of the year if nobody around you is doing that. That's why I love this month, and that's why I love the day, because I always feel like we need a little more credit.
Right? And to
Yeah,
lift each other up, right? And
absolutely.
if you don't have the words, if it's a smile at somebody else, right? And I know
Yeah,
that's a tricky thing because sometimes we don't want to, don't be telling us to smile. That's not what I'm saying.
I
But
am
if
like that
you
too.
I am exactly like that.
Make
But
me
if
laugh.
you genuinely feel it, right,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
share how you're feeling with somebody else, especially
absolutely.
other women, right? I
Yeah,
I really tend to try to smile at other women and to smile at new moms or moms who their kid is having a complete freaking meltdown in the
yeah,
grocery store, like
yeah,
they're having a rough day, right? I think about that, about how we can share our energy and our kindness and our intentions. With it can be little things, it can be big things, right?
yeah.
And thank goodness we live in a time where we're really not that limited. There are still some things. There's still some glass ceilings that need to be busted through, and
Right, right.
but we're in a pretty magical time in our
Yes, we
lifetime
are.
that we're
Yes, we
like.
are.
I mean, you and I were just talking about this. I mean, we have a business that we run out of our homes, that we can run while we're traveling, that we can travel, that we can pop on an airplane and be where we want to be and still maintain our lifestyle. And, that is pretty incredible.
It's huge. it's
Right.
huge. And so especially when I think about history, one of the books I'm reading right now is Uncle Tom's Cabin, and just state lines, stuff like that. I think I don't know if I ever genuinely be able to wrap my mind around how big of a thing it is to just be able to travel, go to Costa Rica and see the monkeys on the telephone lines. Like, one of my favorite memories, but again, it would have been different a few years ago. And with AI, who knows where we're going. But what I know right now is that I can start a business online. I don't have to pay for a brick and mortar. I don't have to have a huge thing printing books right here by hand in my house, And we're gonna do a lot of cool stuff, and not only invite other people so they can speak, but actually pay the women for their work, and we can get paid for our work and have partners who we can lift up at the same time, but also do it with or without them there.
Being job creators,
Yes.
right? As
Yes.
women, used to, somebody would have to have an alias. I mean, well, even honestly,
Hmm.
being authors as
Hmm.
women and using our real names, and not
That's a
having
good
to
point.
use a pseudonym or
Hmm.
a man's name, like that. We get to be who we are,
Yes.
is pretty powerful.
And it's new, so anybody, when we're talking about
Newish.
um newish, right, like feeling a certain way about it, that's why I'm trying to dismantle all of that stuff. It makes sense that you feel a certain way. It makes sense that it's difficult. It makes sense that people around us might be uncomfortable with it as you become Amazon bestseller and like things that we help the authors with, but that's okay. And just like box cereal was new at one time and now it's a staple in America, other things will be things that we get used to as well.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is powerful, powerful to think about it in the
Yeah.
framework of International Women's Day and how far we've come, how far we still have to go, right? And to
Right.
not forget about women that are not as lucky as we are, right?
Right.
And how do we get their voices heard? And how do we, so far we've had women on the show from Egypt. We've had women on the show from Canada. We have different women we're interviewing that are coming from different places and uplifting their voices and letting them be heard,
Yeah.
and from all walks of life. And I think that is, I mean, in some ways, that voice in our head can say, oh, this is minor, right?
Hmm.
But there's that other voice that says, no, it's not. Like when
No,
we
it's
hear
not.
each other's stories and we connect with each other and we understand each other person to person and what we're going through and what we need help with and what we're passionate about and what we want to share with the world, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And I know we talk about speakers, people being on the show, and authors, but when I think about uplifting women's voices and their voices in general too, it might be somebody who doesn't want to come on the podcast. I was out celebrating my Agnes Scott keynote speech, right? So I'm eating charcoal oysters, enjoying myself, and I'm telling this woman beside me about our podcast and our business. She gives me her business card and she's like, "But I don't want to come on the show. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to run the business." And that's fine. I feel like it's us supporting their voices by, again, giving verbiage to it, helping them with practices. And then in their friendships, in their circles, in their relationships with their children, they can say, let's block these two things together so I can keep my self-care on Tuesday, like doing things like that. I feel like it's still them using their voice. And a lot of times what I've seen as I invite speakers and different people to Women Connected, we think that it's only when a huge audience is listening. It's in everywhere that you see yourself. You holding space for yourself is you using your voice, So and for me that goes to the spiritual wellness of you were born worthy. We're not waiting for other people to tell us how much we're worth after surgery, before surgery, with new hair, new outfits. No. We were born worthy. Your voice, you have one because it matters. Even if you are mute, we could type it out, we can ASL, we can do something, and it's still worth hearing because you're worth being here.
Mm, preach it.
Yes. Yes, yes. That's a passion of mine, when people
I
feel
love
like
it.
I just don't, no, it's a lie that you don't matter.
I love it because you do
Yeah,
matter,
you do.
right? You do
Yes.
matter today on International Women's Day and every day,
More.
right?
Yes.
And that you don't have to do this by yourself. That you can
Hmm.
reach out, you can get support, you can find community, you can be connected.
Yeah.
You said a phrase that I am going to use for my wisdom in action this week.
Oh.
And it is the hashtag hold space for yourself.
Yes.
Hold space for yourself is what I'm going with this week. What are you going with?
For yourself. Let's see. What have I been thinking? Spiritual wellness. Oh, 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 I'm gonna write it down. Hold on. That's a good one. And I'm gonna claim it, right? Hashtag wealth is my birthright.
Mm,
Hmm.
all right.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
That's my
Love it.
hashtag as we work through these taxes, you know. And again, I
Right.
know we brought up her name a couple of times, but shout out to Cecile. We were talking about it this week, and I said, you know, I'm just breathing through, getting these taxes done and making sure I'm organized. And she said, well, what helps me is remembering that they're numbers, and I'm usually good with numbers. I said, yeah, I am usually good with numbers, aren't I? So
Mm. Oh, I
yes,
like that. Breaking it
yeah,
down,
yeah,
incremental steps.
absolutely,
Thank you, Cecile. Is there anything we
yes,
need to shout out our listeners before we go towards wrap? We've got some fun stuff happening over in the community that we
yes.
might want to give a shout out for. And if they can't join us today, they could join us next month.
Yeah, let's do it because we have a couple of things that you guys could join us for. So, what Christine is referring is our author class. We have a lot of people ask us about it. We're about to work on volume two, and we already have half of the list for volume three taken up too. So, if you're interested in being an author and how it would benefit you, not only the jobs we were talking about, but we also have passive income that we do on our royalty days. We're going to be in the women community. In the Women Connected and Wisdom community from 6:15 to 7:15, breaking that down and showing you how we make it easy for you to get your book up on all different platforms. And we're also going to have another book signing for our first volume. So if you're around the country, have some time. If you're in South Carolina, we're going to be in South Carolina. We're looking at the 25th and the 26th, and we'll give you guys more specific information as we get closer to it. But we would love to see you in person. We had such a good time at the Overture. The ladies who were there had such a good time. And so come get your book signed. Okay. Make sure you bring it. People were forgetting them. Bring your book, have us sign it.
Bring it or
Join
buy
us.
one there. There's going to
Yeah,
be one there to
right,
buy if you need to,
right, exactly,
right?
absolutely. And come have a good time. And what we will start doing is putting all of the events in our community calendar. You guys know we have a lot of different experts who have resources and classes throughout the month. So we want you to have access to all of those things. That calendar will be in the community. And if you have any questions, let us know.
Right? You can always email us at Christine at womenconnectedinwisdom.com or Shannon at womenconnectedinwisdom.com. We'd
Yes,
love for you to reach out. If you have an idea for the show, you have somebody you want to recommend as a guest on the show, or you just want to connect with us, reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us for episode 106. We will be back live at 5 next Wednesday. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. We'll talk to you soon.